All right. Welcome to the People's Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm here once again with Mike Rossi, G Money Joe Ginolfi, Andrew Garganese, and I'm Doug By. We're going to jump right into the news because we got a ton of news here. I don't really care about doing any pleasantries with you guys, except for G Money, maybe talking about his dentist appointment he had today.
Uh, Listen, man, if I start slurring, I'm sorry. Don't mind the drool.
Yeah. He looks like he had a stroke, maybe on the right side, but he's good.
He's gonna be drooling the whole episode.
All right. The Colts. There's a ton of drama there, Andy. What's happening there? Right now they're saying JT could be placed on NFI list because I think they're trying to not pay him for the year.
Right. So dude went from asking for 16 million to maybe getting $0. I really don't. This is hilarious. We touched on this a little bit last week. The NFL running back landscape is just the NFL's turned into the NBA with all this drama. It is outrageous. I don't know if Taylor requested a trade before he had a meeting with Irsay on Irsay's bus, but I guess they had a meeting, and then it became public that he requested a trade. Jim Irsay had some wild comment about if he died and if Jonathan Taylor was not in the league, nobody would care, which is amazing. And I just don't know what to make of it. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't play this year because he's not getting paid, that is probably the biggest fantasy news of the offseason, no matter what else happens. We have a top probably 10 or 12 back, like a first round pick in almost every single league that's just not going to play.
Yeah, he was the number one last year.
Yeah.
Number one pick.
This is, and I just love Jim Irsay. He was just hammered. Just saying ridiculous things.
Don't tell me really what not to type.
Well, can someone find the direct quote? It was, if I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, no one will miss us.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's an NFL owner talking about.
Do we have another Le'Veon Bell moment? Is that what this is?
Can't.
Are you still drafting him?
No, but not right now.
I would hope these guys would learn their lesson from Bell. It didn't really work out too well for him.
I think Le'Veon Bell might have been the start of the tip of the iceberg in this running back market.
He was.
They might all actually blame him for what's going on. As of right now, though, you can't draft him. Right? He's on the Colts. He says he's not going to play. No one's drafting in late July anyway, but right now he's
if you're drafting today, it's hard to draft.
Yeah. something will change up.
Yeah.
Well, if you're drafting today and it's not just a best ball league, you should probably change your league a little bit.
Yeah. Switch it up a little bit. Other news. Go ahead.
Where's the low point for Taylor then?
If
you're saying you're not going to take him, what's the low point? Because there's got to be a low point. You're still worth risking it.
Oh, if we get to draft season, like true draft season,
and it's still like this,
he's still on the, that we don't think he's playing at all. I mean, I guess it depends how serious it gets. He's got the talent to still maybe draft in those 6, 7, 8 rounds because he might get traded. And if it does look like a Le'Veon situation, that draft him late and hold on to him for a year strategy comes into play. But I mean, if we get to late August and it's as ugly as it is right now, I don't think he plays this year.
I'm not touching that. Yeah, I think I said that.
I'd still take a chance a little earlier than what Andy's saying.
Yeah, you would because you like Jameson Williams as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he ends up playing, whether that's with the Colts or he gets traded or whatever it is, and you ended up drafting him in the 5th round, I'm taking the chance there. Maybe not in every single league, but I'm willing to do it.
I think you get into September, if it's still like this, they got to make some type of trade happen to get something. He's in his last year of his contract. Get something before you completely lose him.
Yeah, isn't there something though? If he goes on an NFI list or whatever, he can get franchised or something. I don't know. They keep changing the
rules are always changing.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of all that stuff. The other news in Indy is Anthony Richardson practices with the ones. He was practicing with the twos last week. Now he's with the ones. What do you
Yeah,
think about that?
I didn't get a chance to say anything last week because I had like headphone issues or whatever. But I don't like we all think the Colts are going to be bad. I don't think no matter how well anybody plays, do we think they're playoff teams? I don't really see the harm in starting Anthony Richardson. And now this news comes out. Just let him play. The best learning experience is on the field. Like you can study film and you can do all that, but when you're out there, that's the best experience he's going to get. He's probably the best quarterback on that roster. And I guess he put on like 12 pounds since the combine. So he's putting on some weight to get ready to take some hits. I'm all for it. Fantasy value. I think he gets into that, set quarterback taken on your team for, some upside. I think he's probably right out there with Bryce Young ahead of CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I would even go higher, to be honest with you. I think if he plays 17 games, his rushing upside is monstrous. I mean, he could have 1,000 yards rushing. So
that's a wow.
I don't think it is the way. I mean,
guys are buying into the Anthony Richardson hype big time.
No, fantasy wise, exactly. Exactly.
I still don't like him. Don't like it at all.
All right. Do not draft for Joe.
Do not
That's
draft.
Do not draft for me. 100%.
Okay. All
right.
Put him on the DND.
The one thing I didn't mention was the fact that this episode is actually about the fantasy award predictions of the year that we're going to be talking about. And that's probably good to mention. And we have the five categories we're going to be going over is MVP, best value, biggest bust, breakout, and best team for fantasy purposes. So we'll talk about that, but let's get back into the news here. And Joseph, no, we'll go with Mike. Mike, the Seattle backfield, that's a mess right now.
It always is.
But right now they got a lot of injuries. Zach Charbonnet has got a shoulder. He's out indefinitely. Kenneth Walker, the groin. They're saying out a while is the quote that I saw. So what do you make of all this?
Well, you have to be scared. Kenneth Walker with the groin, especially. That's one of those injuries that you come back and it's always an issue for the whole year. That's gonna be there until he can rest. So I think no matter what, if he comes back or not, that's gonna hurt his draft value a little bit. Charbonnet, we don't really have much information. They don't have to disclose exactly how long they're out for yet. Indefinitely, could be a week. It could be 3 months. Who knows yet? But what I'm taking out of it is that they have to either bring in some of these vets. So the Zekes, the Fournettes, even the Kareem Hunts, somebody has to either go there, or DJ Dallas or Kenny McIntosh are going to have their moment, at least for a little bit, to make the team and possibly shine if Walker or Charbonnet goes down later in the year. So right now, Kenny McIntosh, from what I'm reading on the training camp, he's a rookie, but he's lighting it up. He's getting first team reps right now with both of those out. So
where'd you get that news, by the way?
Keep in mind.
That seems like where'd you get that news from about Kenny McIntosh?
Oh, I got that news from Andy about 5 minutes ago. No, but just a name to keep in mind. I mean, if they don't bring a vet in, you never know who's going to play if they're both out. But just you have to keep listening for this news. We don't know how long Walker's going to be out. We don't know how long Charbonnet is going to be out. But pay attention. We'll keep you updated, and we'll go from there.
100%. Yeah, Charbonnet was everyone's sleeper, really. Everyone loved that guy. So we'll see what happens with all that. All right, Joe, Brian Robinson. Or does anyone else have anything to say about that?
Well, the one thing I would touch point on is, to me, it brings up the value in Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN, because I think they're going to be passing more. I think both those injuries could be lingering injuries. Groin injuries with running backs can definitely linger and keep them out longer. So I would boost those three guys up a little bit in my value.
I like that.
Yeah. All right, Joe, Brian Robinson Jr. They're saying he's looking sharp in training camp. He's developing some receiving skills. What do you think about all that?
So I mean, I'm big on Brian Robinson. I think if this kid turns into a 3-down back, he could possibly be a breakout player this year. He had 800 yards rushing, and the kid got shot this time last year. We didn't know if he was going to be playing football last year. I think Sam Howell is going to be an improvement from what they've had, and they've liked what they've seen from him so far. So I think that can open up the running game because we all know Scary Terry's got a lot of potential and a high ceiling. So I'm big on Brian Robinson. If he can get into the passing game, it's definitely going to boost him for those PPR leagues. And I think he's a big talent if he becomes a 3-down back.
Yeah. If Gibson's not going to be catching the ball all the time, then it devalues him big time.
Yeah, Gibson. I was big on Gibson a couple of years ago. I don't feel like he's ever gone to his full potential. And I think, that's why they brought in Robinson. Yeah. And I mean, Robinson did the hard work last year, getting ready to play for his team after that whole incident that happened. And they said how good he looked coming into this year. So I think they're ready to give it to him if he worked on his receiving in his hands and he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah. As a runner, he was kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but he did kind of pass the eye test. He runs hard. That kid runs hard. Mm-hmm. I think the team just isn't too great, but all right.
I do agree with Joe with the Sam Howell bit there where he's going to be improved. I think he's better than anyone they've had there. So with Howell being able to pass the ball and threats outside, I think it opened up to the run game a little bit. Robinson, if he's a 3-down back, I think he jumps way up in my rankings.
Agreed. Completely agree. Heineke he didn't impress you too much, or?
I mean, he won some games, man, but he didn't do anything.
All right. Another thing in the news, Garrett Wilson dealing with a low ankle sprain, saying a couple weeks. My only thing is with Aaron Rodgers kind of getting the chemistry going with him. Maybe that could be a little bit of an issue, but he's the guy there. So,
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it because his quarterbacks last year, Zach Wilson and Mike White, and he still won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I think they'll be okay.
All right. We're gonna go back to Joe. I want you talking about Joe Burrow injury. I know it's news from a couple of days ago, but you like old news. You did the D-Hop thing last time, so.
I mean, they're saying it's just a calf injury. I get scared anytime it's non-contact like that. I'm sure the whole world was thinking the worst, as I was when I saw the video of it. If that team goes where Joe Burrow can take them, man. I mean, without Burrow, you got the journeyman Trevor Siemian behind him. Guy's been on the Bears, the Broncos, the Saints, the Jets, and he's only had one decent season. Yeah. I hope Burrow's going to be back. I hope it's just a couple weeks that he's going to miss and not, half to 3/4 of the season. But anytime it's not contact like that, it puts the fear of life into me, and I worry about it coming back up later in the year.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think if it was somebody like Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, somebody that uses their legs a lot, I'd be a little more worried. Joey can sling it from the pocket, and if he has to take it easy for a few weeks, I think that's what he'll do, and then he'll be right back on track.
Yeah, it's not an arm issue, and he runs a little bit. He runs more than people probably give him credit for, but
yeah, I agree with that.
But I would be more concerned if it was an arm thing with him. All right. Javonte Williams cleared to practice in pads. Mike, is that big news?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, Javonte Williams before his ACL, he was looking like the next stud running back in the NFL, and he's only being drafted late right now because people didn't know when he was going to come back. So for him to seemingly be ready for the opening snap, you have to boost him on your board. Obviously, it brings Perrine's value down to maybe just a handcuff of Williams, but I think beginning of the year they'll slowly get Williams into the game. So Perine still will have some value, but you're drafting him later and you're drafting Javonte earlier.
Yeah. How much?
Yeah, I don't.
Go ahead,
Andy
or Joe. No, all right.
I
So I'm a Javonte guy. Always have been. I know Perine signed because Payton kind of offered him that almost Kamara-esque role. But it's Javonte back when and if he is fully healthy. So if that's the beginning of the year, he's his ADP is a skyrocket.
I'm sorry, I don't even know what you just said there. I just saw a cat's tail behind
Dog.
you.
Yeah. Dog's acting up. Did you get none of it?
Yeah, all right. I saw a tail. It was dog's tail.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you're kind of in and out there.
Joe, what were you gonna say about it?
Yeah, Javonte's definitely the star back, and I agree. If he's ready week 1, you boost him up a little bit. I just think Perine will get his stuff because anytime you talk about a Sean Payton offense, he gets all his running backs involved, and they all do big things. He loved Darren Sproles, and he's going to make things happen for both those guys to get points.
Yeah. All right, this is a two-parter with the Broncos because Tim Patrick, he's feared to have suffered an Achilles injury, and that dude just cannot stay healthy. Mike, what do you think?
I feel bad for the guy. I mean, what is he? He's going to be 30 years old.
Is he? I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah, he's almost 30, and he just every single season in the NFL, he's been hurt. Mm-hmm. And every single offseason, it's the Tim Patrick hype train. He looks great. He's the best receiver on the Broncos. And then the same exact thing happens. So I do feel bad for Tim Patrick, but Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, obviously that boosts their value a little bit. I mean, other news, KJ Hamler just got released too. Mild heart irritation, they were saying, but it was a non-football injury, so they were able to release him. I don't even know who the third receiver on this team is right now with them two gone. So obviously Sutton and Jeudy are the two primaries. So you have to have faith in both of them.
Yeah, I think it definitely boosts Sutton some and Jeudy, but definitely Sutton because I feel like it would have taken more out of him, more away from him. That is. Andy, I know you wanted to really touch on this topic, so I'm going to give this last one to you. I think you know what it is. Zeke visiting the Patriots.
Oh, Zeke on the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a AFC East rival, I would love that. A washed up running back on a bum offense, an old bum coach. I don't know. The only thing it does is hurt Ramondre fantasy wise.
That's all it really does. Yeah, it'll take touchdowns away.
That's it. I don't think he really. If Zeke signs, he's not gonna have like too much value. He's a handcuff. He's a stream, but I don't think he's much more than that.
It's so wild because he's only 28 years old. Derrick Henry's 29, and we're still drafting him. You know,
they beat him up in Dallas. So.
They did. They absolutely did. But yeah, they're gonna sign some running back there, and it's gonna hurt Ramondre, unfortunately.
Why are they not bringing more receivers in, Doug? Come on, what are they doing?
I don't know, Joe. I'll be there tomorrow at the training camp. I'll ask.
Please do. I'm dying.
All right. I think that's the news. That's all the news we have. So we're gonna jump into the fantasy award predictions. All right, Mike, we're gonna start with you.
Oh, starting with me.
We're starting with you. We like to start with you. We're gonna do the MVP. And for MVP, how are we defining MVP, Mike?
Well, I think we all defined it a little differently.
We did. We had some trouble with that.
I defined it as the person that is going to perform and get you to the championship all year.
Which, by the way, not to cut you off, but in real life, they have a hard time defining that in real life, in every sport.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But to me, in order to be MVP, even in real life, you have to at least have a playoff team, right? You can't be 2-12 and be the MVP. You have to have a good team. Mm-hmm. So that means you produce in the regular season. And for fantasy football, playoffs matter the most. So it's the person that's going to be in the championship, the game the most. That's what I went by. So I don't know what everyone else did, but that's my rankings.
Okay. But one thing I will say that you didn't say, and I know you didn't want to say, none of us chose quarterbacks, right? Because we're really kind of what we were going with was most points by a non-quarterback. So, Mike, who do you have?
I have Cooper Kupp as my fantasy MVP. Like I said, I need somebody that produces all year. I looked it up. Cooper Kupp has from weeks 1 through 14, so the actual regular season, has the easiest strength of schedule against DBs from that time span. Even in the playoffs from weeks 15 through 17, he has the 6th easiest strength of schedule in that time frame. So all year, he has a easy go at it as far as the numbers go. People forget already what Cooper Kupp did in 2021. He broke records, the most fantasy points ever by a non-quarterback. 145 catches, 1,900 yards, 16 touchdowns. Guy was incredible. Last year, he played 9 games, and in those 9 games, he was pacing for almost the same exact stat line. A little less on the yards, but same on the touchdowns, same on the catches. He's coming back. He's had all offseason to rest that ankle. He's healthy. Matthew Stafford and him are building their connection again. I just think this offense, they're going to have to be in passing mode. Their defense is terrible. Matthew Stafford is going to throw for 4,000, 5,000 yards like he has to do, and most of it's going to Cooper Kupp. He's going to win you leagues.
All right. You want to have anything to say about that, or should we just?
I love Cooper Kupp. Got nothing. Love everything he said.
Yeah,
I do too.
It's just the only concern is Stafford going to be that guy still? I don't know if Stafford's arm still has it, but I mean, I'm still taking Cooper Kupp in the top 5. You can't not.
I think he's a steal at 5. If you get him at 5, I think he's a steal. But is he gonna be 30 this year, or is he 29? Either way,
couldn't tell. He's around there for sure.
Okay, all right. Joe, who do you have for MVP?
So for me, I'm taking the bowling ball. I'm taking Austin Ekeler, man. The guy is just, to me, what he does amazes me every week because I just don't expect it out of him, even though I should. He was 20th in carries last season, and I think that is going to increase this year. I think they need to get to running the ball a little bit better. They've had leads that they've blown, and they never just take that control of the game and take time of possession. I think hopefully they've learned from that last season, so that will get them more carries at that 4.5 average. He had 94 targets for his in the passing game, at least in the last 3 seasons. And he had 18 touchdowns 2 years ago, 20 touchdowns last year. Herbert's not afraid to dump it off to him. His coaches have told him they don't want him taking hits. So if that rush is getting in, he's getting rid of it. He's not holding on to the ball for extended periods of times like some of these other quarterbacks are. When you get near that goal line, they're giving the ball to Austin Ekeler. There's no other option on that team that's better than Austin Ekeler. And I just think the numbers that he's produced the last 2 years are just going to keep growing this year. And he's my number 1 running back. He's probably my number 1 pick this year.
Wow. That's big news. He's probably your number 1 pick, huh? Kellen Moore is going to change that offense.
Hot take.
That is a hot take right there. So you would take him over Justin Jefferson, all the receivers. Okay.
There's nobody I'm taking. If I have one, I'm taking Ekeler.
All right. We're going to hold you to that.
It's fine. Listen, I hope I have one. That'd be nice. I'll ride him out to a championship.
You kind of don't want one at that point, right? You want like 3 or something, so that way you get a little more value out of it.
Correct. Exactly, knowing where everybody's thinking, I want 3 or 4 now.
Yeah, 100%. Andy, who do you have for MVP?
I went back and forth a little bit on this, and if on the half point, I was kind of leaning Ekeler. I was with Joe, but even half point, I'm going Justin Jefferson. I'm riding him out. I like their offense, which is I always like Thielen, but I like their offense more this year than I have in the past. And that's without Cook. I feel like that puts a little bit more emphasis on the passing game. Addison, Hawkinson, Osborne. I think that's a pretty solid, supporting cast. And I think Jefferson's I think he's in for like a historic year. Like I know somebody flirted with the 2000 thing. I don't think he's going to get there, but those Cooper Kupp numbers that Mike just handed out from 2021, I think we could be in that ballpark. If he ends with 130 and like 1,700 and 12 touchdowns, I think all of that is very realistic. And those are such absurd numbers to think are realistic. I have to take him one. He's 1-1 and half PPR and PPR. I mean half point and PPR formats for me.
Yeah, I think he's the safest pick this year. Mike, what do you think about him?
I mean, what's not to like about Justin Jefferson? To be honest, though, if I'm in that position 1-1, I'm not taking Eckler or Justin Jefferson. You both know I'm taking CMC. The only reason why I've always had a crush on CMC. Yeah,
it's what Mike's always wanted been.
The only reason why I'm taking Cooper Kupp is because of value of pick. If you get him 5th, and then you have the opportunity to get my other man crush right now of Tony Pollard on the way back.
No,
you're setting yourself up for success, and I think you're setting yourself up to be in the playoffs more often.
Yeah. All right.
The only thing I worry about with Justin Jefferson is touchdowns. Highest touchdowns in the season's 10.
Yeah. And so I was going to touch on this with my argument with Ja'Marr Chase. That's who I'm going to go with for MVP. But Eckler last year had 319 points in half point PPR. So that's how many he got. And I think he had 18 touchdowns and 107 catches to get there. Also just under 1,000 rushing yards. So it takes a lot to be that highest point total. But anyway, so I got Ja'Marr Chase. He's still young. He's got Joe Burrow as his quarterback, who's also a top 5 at his position. Again, this is hoping that he's going to be coming back week 1.
I think he'll be fine.
You think he'll be fine? I think so.
Yeah.
Joe is not as positive, but I think he'll be good for week 1. He's got that elite talent, he's got that size and combo that gives him the highest ceiling of all the wide receivers, I think, even over Justin Jefferson. He had 13 touchdowns as a rookie, 9 TDs last year in just 12 games. So I think 16 to 18 touchdowns is a real possibility in 17 games. He had 134 targets last year through the 12 games. If you accrue that to 17-game season, that would be 189 targets. Jefferson had 184 targets last year, and he was number 1 in targets last year. So the reason I'm bringing that up is everyone's worried about T. Higgins. I don't think T. Higgins is really that much of a bother. I think it's Ja'Marr Chase's show. And if he's healthy, the ball is going to go there. So, all that being said, I think 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 122 receptions, that would get him to 317 points and a half point PPR. Again, I just said 319 was the most last year, and that was Eckler. So it would put him right there in the conversation.
Now, you not being scared of T. Higgins, does that mean you have him lower than consensus?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I do. I think he's being drafted too high.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the Burrow thing, Doug, I'm right there with you. I took Chase over Jefferson last year. And I would take Chase. If I knew Burrow was healthy, I would take Chase over Jefferson again this year too, because I think he's got that touchdown. I think he can get just as many targets. I think if he didn't get hurt last year, I think we'd be talking Jefferson, or I think Chase would be in that number 1 pick top.
I think so too. He's that elite talent. He's.
Oh yeah.
I think.
When they were at LSU together, Chase was the one. Like he's the better receiver.
Right.
But I just think JJ's workload is just so consistent. He's so consistent. I just can't argue against it.
All right, it's good debate. We'll look back on this and see. Check it all out.
I smell another bet incoming.
Maybe. We might have
we
to.
got a lot more topics for the show.
We got a ton of more topics. Best value is the next one. Mike, start us off with that.
So for best value, I took Darren Waller. I mean, you guys have seen the news in training camp. He's Daniel Jones' favorite target right now. They're lighting it up together. All signs point to Darren Waller being the Darren Waller he was previously. And he's still being drafted at the back of the 6th round. Now, do I think these training camp stories are going to prompt him to go a little higher in drafts? Yeah, probably. So maybe the value isn't quite there as much come season. But there's still the injury concerns that people don't want to take a 4th, 5th round tight end that might get hurt, because that's a position that if you get hurt, now you're streaming all year. So with the injury concerns, I think people or Darren Waller is still going to slip. And I'm willing to take him every single time, especially in the back of the 6th, even early 6th, late 5th. I'm okay with that. I think he's had plenty of time to rest. And I don't think his previous injury is a concern coming in to this season. One thing I would do with Waller, though, is when you draft him in the 5th or the 6th round, go ahead and take a flyer on a tight end late, like the Laporters, the Kincaids, Higbee, whoever it is. Have a back. I know Andy likes the Kincaid talk right there, but have a backup plan just in case. But if Waller stays healthy, there's no better value than late 6th round for potentially the number 2 tight end.
Okay. So are we just saying Kelce is going to be the number 1 tight end?
That's it? Of course. Yeah.
Debate over.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can argue.
A 34-year-old Kelce.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Darren Waller can beat out Travis Kelce. That's too hot.
Yeah, that is too hot of a take. All right, Joe, who do you have for best value?
So best value goes back to, relates with the Joe Burrow injury, because I see a big bounce back year and best value for Joe Mixon. I think we're going to get the Joe Mixon that we saw 2 seasons ago that had 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns. They boosted the offensive line. They brought in Orlando Brown and Cody Fuller for their tackles. We know that was a weak spot for that team last year. Putting those guys out there, giving better protection with still having T. Higgins in a contract year and Jamar Chase on the other side, and nobody really behind him to threaten him as much as Samaje Perine would. I think Joe Mixon is peaked for a big year. He got that 2-year deal. Wasn't anything special. I think he's going to want to have a big season this year, and everybody tries to rework a deal when there's 1 year left before they start the season. So basically call it a contract year for Joe Mixon and let him go out and do his thing.
What he did in the red zone last year, does that worry you at all? They just kept giving him the ball in the red zone and he wasn't producing.
That's where I think it's an offensive line thing, though, and that's where bringing in a guy like Orlando Brown, who's going to just push those ends back. I'm not worried about it this year.
Yeah, I think I like Joe's points, but I'm not as high on Mixon. I think he's on the back 9. I don't want to say he's washed yet, but I don't think we'll ever see the same back that we saw in his prime.
Yeah, I think he could be on the back 9, but to Joe's point, Perine's gone. I think he is a good value where he is right now. People are sleeping on him a little bit because he was probably drafted, in years past, it was 1st, 2nd round with him.
Yeah, I think he's mid 4th right now?
I think so.
Yeah.
So I think there could be some value there. Andy, who do you have as best value?
I got Amari Cooper. That's my best value. I know the Elijah Moore stuff coming out of camp and all that, but I think we all agree that Deshaun Watson's floor is probably better than Jacoby Brissett's ceiling. So, I think Amari was basically in every format a top 10 receiver last year. So no matter what happens with Deshaun, no matter who we get, what version of him we get for a full season, I think Amari doesn't regress at all. He might improve. So if he's going late 3rd right now and you're getting a top 10 receiver, at the end of the third, the beginning of the fourth, I think that's incredible value, and that's where his ADP seems to be. So I'm staying with Amari.
Feels like he's been in the league forever. How old is that guy?
He's like 27 or something.
Yeah, he's younger than you.
29.
Is he 29? Okay.
I've been down on Amari Cooper this whole offseason, and I really haven't had a reason why other than he's always inconsistent, right? Like Amari Cooper will come out and put up 30, and then the next game he'll have one catch for 10 yards. It's just the story of his career. But I almost picked Elijah Moore as my breakout candidate, and I did a lot of research into the Browns, and I saw like the offensive coordinator change and how this new offensive coordinator is doing more shotgun, which they did in Houston, that he's more comfortable with. And it's more like a Jalen Hurts type approach to the offense. And just to think about Deshaun Watson being comfortable again and being in that type of offense that he wants to be in, not comfortable with massages, Andy. Just comfortable.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was going to say, we don't want him getting too comfortable.
You got to get him relaxed.
Nobody wants that.
You keep him very relaxed.
Yeah.
But if he's back there and he can be himself in the backfield, I did take away. I did bring Amari Cooper a little bit higher in my rankings after doing some research. So,
all right. Okay, so for best value, I went Deontay Johnson. So I know Joe would like that one. I think his ADP is suppressed right now due to the fact that he had 0 touchdowns last year. 0 touchdowns.
On 145 targets?
Yeah. Yep. That's good, Mike. You did your research on Deontay.
Watch that every week.
Yeah. So he's going as a wide receiver 32 currently. He finished as the wide receiver 39 last year with, as I said, 0 touchdowns. If he had just 2 touchdowns, if he just fell in twice, Joe.
Oh, I'm interested.
He would have been the wide receiver. He would have been the wide receiver 27. So that would have jumped him up from 39 to 27 if he just had 2 touchdowns last year. So his efficiency was historically bad. He had 87 catches on, like Mike said, like 145 targets. Only had 882 yards with a 2.7 yak. Like the dude just, his efficiency numbers were pathetic last year. So I think there's bound to be a positive regression there. There has to be. He's got to get touchdowns this year. And on the upside, again, so it was 147 targets, and he had a 26.8% target share, which is huge. That's a big number right there. He also got open higher than any other receiver, at a higher rate than any other receiver in the NFL. Any other receiver. What's that?
If only he could catch the ball.
Yeah, he had like 10 drops last year too.
I love Deontay Johnson. He showed it to us 2 years ago when he had 1,100 yards. I love it, Doug, and I think you are on track with it because I think he has that potential because he runs such good routes. And he's always going to be the scheme of that offense. He's going to get those targets again.
Yeah. Doug, let me ask you quick. Did you pick Deontay Johnson before or after George Pickens came out and said he's the best receiver in the league?
I didn't even know he said that.
He came out and he was.
I think that's hilarious.
Not shy about it too. He was coming out and telling how tall he is, how high he could jump, how fast he is.
Nice.
Giving all his own stats.
Good. We got to see it on the field, right?
I'll take him jump ball any day.
I like that Doug said his breakout or his best value pick and then just roasted him.
No.
Negative numbers.
So I roasted him because how bad he was last year. He's gonna have that positive regression.
Yeah, basically you roasted Kenny Pickett at the same time.
Yeah, he needs to take a step forward for this to all happen. So, but again, like I said, the dude is always open. So if he's always open, he's gonna get the ball. He's still gonna get the majority of the targets in that offense. That's all I want. If he's eating, that's all I want out of a receiver. All right. Biggest bust.
Oh, we're going biggest bust. All right.
Going biggest bust. I think that was the next topic we had. Mike, who do you got for that?
All right. I got a lengthy one because I know I have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, you warned us prior to the show.
Yeah. Mark Andrews is my biggest bust. And obviously when I say biggest bust, I don't want you to think Mark Andrews isn't going to be a good tight end in the league. I just think for fantasy value, where he's being drafted, you're not going to get where you're drafting him at. He's getting drafted early third round, and yeah. I just don't see him producing mid-third. Yeah, I just don't see him producing that type of value to warrant that. So, my reasoning is obviously they brought in more targets for Lamar, right? So all this hype about Lamar has the most targets he's ever had. Let's just say Lamar goes out there and throws the most yards he ever has. I don't know, 3,500 yards, because that would be the most by over 300. Let's say Zay Flowers gets 800. Let's say Rashad Bateman gets 800 yards. Odell gets 500 yards. And these aren't unreasonable numbers. Isaiah Likely gets 300 yards. And the whole running back committee gets 200 yards. That leaves Mark Andrews with a total of 900 yards receiving. If Mark Andrews comes out and gives you 900 yards, he's not worth his value in the third round. So again, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying that he's not worth his value. Here's my next thing. I'm going to play a little game with you guys. You ready? I'm going to start with Doug. The game is Mark Andrews, or you have to tell me, I'm going to name a stat. You have to tell me if this is Mark Andrews' stat or if this is the guy's stat that I'm naming from 2022. All right. So Mark Andrews or Dawson Knox. 6 touchdowns in 2022. Doug?
Mark Andrews?
It's Dawson Knox. Mark Andrews only had 5 touchdowns in 2022. Joe, let's go to you. Mark Andrews or Evan Ingram. 73 catches with a 74.5% catch percentage.
I think it's always going to be the other guy.
No, it's Evan Ingram.
I think that's where we're going.
Doug, don't tell secrets. You are correct. Evan Ingram, because Mark Andrews also had 73 catches, but 64.6% catch percentage. All right, last one, Andy. You ready? Mark Andrews or Dallas Goedert. I can't even say my own team's player's name right. Averaged the league best 61.3 snaps per game.
We go with Goedert.
You would be correct.
Wow. Good guess, Andy.
52.5, which would rank him 11th among tight ends in the league. So again, I'm not saying Mark Andrews isn't a great player. I'm saying with this offense and as many weapons as they have, you're betting on Lamar having the best season ever, and you're betting on Lamar staying healthy all 17 games. I'm not doing it.
So do you do all your fantasy research based off of the last season, and that's it?
I mean, I'm not going to do it based off of 5 years ago.
I won't have to go that far back, is Joe's point.
I mean, just to throw out the numbers for one season is a little ludicrous to me.
2 years ago, I think
recent.
he had 2 years ago, he had 1,300 yards.
Correct. He had 1,300 yards 2 seasons ago. He almost had 200 targets. Also, too, when you bring in
almost
those weapons,
200.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not right.
But I bet he was 180. I bet you it was 180 something targets he had 2 seasons ago. 153. Excuse me. He had a buck.
Not even close.
A buck and a half. Not even close. But it was a lot of targets. Is all I'm saying. And
it's a lot for a tight end.
I don't see your other targets. I think gives him more space, and that's going to give him more opportunity. I think this is the first year that Mark Andrews is going to have real opportunity to have open field. 2 years ago, he did all those numbers with getting double teamed, with having corners play on him, with having the fastest safeties play on him. I feel the exact opposite of all your arguments.
Well, that's why it's a hot take.
It is a hot take because in 21 he had 9 touchdowns, in 20 he had 7, and 19 he had 10. So it's the lowest touchdown total he's had in a while. He's still young, and he's obviously and he's very obviously his number one target getter. So it's a hot take by Michael there.
Quarterbacks like their guys, man. Look, Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets. He brought Allen Lazard with him. Nobody thinks Allen Lazard's that good.
Quarterbacks like their guys, but quarterbacks also don't scream, I need more targets. Go get OBJ for 18 mil. Go draft Zay Flowers in the first round. Like, he wanted more. And now he's got it. You think they're not going to use them? Of course they are.
I think they're going to use them. I just think they make the field that much more open and give that much more space.
They're not going to use them just for that. They're going to get theirs.
So can we side bet who leads the Ravens in targets between the two of you?
You guys are going to have to do that, yeah. Think about that one.
I think Mark Andrews leads the Ravens in targets.
But you don't want him.
I think in my stats, I said that he's going to lead the Ravens in yards too. But it's going to be close.
Your tight end is leading the team in targets and yards. I want that guy on my fantasy team. Where are you, man?
He's just saying third round value. That's what he's going with.
Exactly.
You're leading your team in targets. I want that in the third round.
Lamar Jackson.
Let's move on. Let's move on from this.
Lamar Jackson targets.
That's true. Joe, who's your biggest bust?
Biggest bust. I just don't see how this guy can do what he did last year, and that's Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, yes, the guy's athletic, but we're talking the Eagles to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, top of the league to the bottom of the league. The Panthers don't have the offensive line that the Eagles have. You go from a quarterback and Jalen Hurts running your offense to a guy of Bryce Young, who we don't know what his professional potential is going to be. I'm not big on Bryce Young. I like CJ Stroud out of the rookie quarterbacks if I had to take one of them. But no one can answer that. Sanders is going to have all the focus on him. People are going to worry about stopping the run first before they stop the pass. He's coming off his season where he's had 80 more carries than he's ever had before. So he's never used to handling that workload. I don't see how he can do what he did last year for the Eagles this year for the Panthers.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some negative regression on his part. He doesn't have Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have that offensive line to kind of open up the lanes for him.
I think the only thing I would say to counterpoint that is, obviously it's not the Eagles. I mean, no team is the Eagles. But the Panthers relied on their run last year. Everybody knew they couldn't throw the ball. And Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard still kind of tore it up and kept them in games. So I think there's no argument that Miles Sanders is better than both of those backs. I don't think the Carolina Panthers offensive line is getting enough credit in the run game for what they did last year when everybody saw it coming. So if Bryce Young can be somebody in his rookie year, I think Miles Sanders has a chance.
Yeah. I get what you're saying with those two running backs last year, but with Bryce Young back there, I think they're going to want to pass a lot more than with Sam Darnold back there. And I don't see him getting as many carries as those guys did last year. And if he does, he definitely can't handle the workload 2 years in a row. I don't think so. He doesn't have a Tony Pollard type body.
Joe, have you seen Deebo Samuel's body?
Don't get me going.
He's got it now. What was Miles Sanders' workload last year, by the way?
80 more carries than he ever had before. The exact number I didn't write down. 259.
259.
259.
That's something.
That is a lot, yeah.
That's a big number.
All right. Andy, who you got for biggest bust?
Joe, I'm sorry, but I went with Najee Harris. I don't think he's like fantasy irrelevant. I'm not saying don't draft him. I just don't think he's a good running back. I watch Najee Harris play, and I see and his workload's there, but it's just, the eyes don't lie. I don't think he's very good. I don't think Kenny Pickett's really that good. I don't see that offense being very good. The only time Najee was like really fantasy relevant was when Big Ben couldn't throw the ball more than 4 yards.
Dump.
Yeah, here you go, buddy. So yeah, he's fantasy relevant. In a sense, I think he is a flex, but I wouldn't draft him in the first, 5 rounds.
Andy, would you say that Najee Harris is fighting for his job with an undrafted free agent?
All right, don't do this again. Don't do this again.
No, I don't think that's happening. No, I think it's his gig, but I just don't think he's very good. Is all. So yeah, he's my biggest bust. But the workload's there, and he has some value.
Yeah, that's my thing with Najee. Yeah, he's gonna have the workload. Joe, you got to rebuttal that.
I said my piece 2 episodes ago, man. It's the new offensive line. I completely agree that the eye test of what he's done in the league, I can't argue with what Andy's saying. Being a Steelers fan, knowing that roster, I will say this year is going to be the best offensive line that he's had. So if he doesn't do it this year, then I'm going to be very worried about Najee Harris in the Steelers' future.
This isn't a contract year, right? This is year 3 or 4?
No, it's year 3.
Okay.
It seems like always has some kind of an injury. They worked him hard year 1. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But he's the workhorse there.
Listen, Andy could be right. I just hope he's not.
All right.
Joe's gonna break down one of these times if you keep talking like this.
By the way, boys, I am 0 for 2 with the AirPods. I don't know if anybody else picked up on that besides Mike.
I did.
0 for 2. They died again.
It's all right. There's no echo. You're good. All right. So for my biggest bust, I'm going Bijan Robinson. I know I know. That's a big shock.
Boo this man.
I know. It's a big shock.
Makes me feel good after that bet last week.
Yeah. But I'm only going biggest bust by his ADP. He's going 9 overall. My thing is, and I'm going to go back to the last show. I'm about being safe, right, Mike? I'm all about being safe, right?
Yeah, I know. Complete opposites. It's why I have him ranked 6th in my ADP.
Exactly. Complete opposites. In round 1, I want that proven commodity. Even if it's just one season that they prove it. I want something that's proven. For me, it's like, why is he going in front of guys like Barkley, Chubb, Diggs, Henry, Lamb, Pollard, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams? These are all guys who have the track record of high-end success. So why are we taking this rookie who's going into a bad offense over all these other guys that we know can produce? There's a running back behind him in Tyler Algier who had over 1,000 yards rushing last year.
On a bad offense too.
On a bad offense too, but he's there, right? You can't tell me he's not going to eat into it. Desmond Ridder, actually, Andy, you sent something out today, right? What exactly was that poll?
Oh yeah, the 50, like, it was, I don't know, GMs, head coaches, like offensive coordinators.
But it was 50 personalities in the NFL.
50, yeah. Where was Ridder? Was he 31?
I think he was 31. I believe he was 31 on that list out of 32. So they're not too high on this guy. He averaged 177 yards a game last year in the 4 games he started. No, it's a small sample, but it's 4 games he started, 177 yards. They're going to load the box on Bijan this year. They're going to make Ridder prove that he can actually do it. So again, I know that Bijan's a stud. He's going to be a great player in the NFL. Year 1, I'm out on him at 9 ADP. I'm not taking him.
Where are you taking? Let's say he slips to your ideal spot. Where are you comfortable in saying he's mine?
Probably somewhere in not immediate early second round, but early second round, mid second round. I know it's not that far back, but probably
it's a big difference.
Probably mid second round. It is
when you're talking that early in the draft.
Right.
Every pick matters.
We're talking biggest bust here. Doug went back 7 spots.
I went back. All right. I went back 7 spots, but I think this guy's being overdrafted.
I think this is just Andy shits on Doug episode.
Hey, what is this, Andy?
The other thing I'll say with Doug, and I know.
So on the next episode, it's gonna be a 3-man show.
I know Andy and Mike will laugh at it, but I don't like Bijan until like end of the second, early in the third, and I know he'll never be there. So.
Well, you're just never gonna have him then. Exactly. So like,
and I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that.
But that's my thing.
I'd much rather, like you said, I'd much rather have Saquon, and I think Derrick Henry with Hopkins now, way over Bijan Robinson as my running back.
All the guys I listed, I would take over Bijan. So if that's mid second, then that's mid second.
Those guys are all going to the mid.
I said Pollard. So
you got Pollard over.
I got Pollard over him even because Pollard is proven in the NFL to be effective. So. Okay. All right, Andy, you're not coming back.
And you just turn your screen off, man. You're done.
I'm gonna charge my AirPods for no reason.
All right, next we're going breakout. So who do you have for breakout, Mike?
Like I said, I almost went Elijah Moore. Switched up last minute. Went Jahan Dotson. I don't think this is a hot take. I think everybody sees or most people see a breakout in Jahan this year. Last year he played 9 games. He had 35 catches for 500 yards and 7 touchdowns. I mean, the only number that jumps out there is the 7 touchdowns. But when you look at when he came back from his injury, it was 5 weeks, 13 through 17. He had a 24% target share on this offense. I think he found himself. They started having faith in him, and he competed with Terry for the wide receiver 1. I'm not saying he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for this team. I'm just saying for those 5 weeks, he competed with Terry for the wide receiver 1 as far as target shares. The Commanders almost called them Redskins. Commanders brought in Eric Bieniemy.
I hope they change that name, man. I cannot stand
Commanders.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
I think Mike knows this, but I was born in DC, so like they're my number 2 team, and
God.
Yeah, they got to change it. Well, they're starting like a petition or whatever to change it, so we'll see what that happens. But they brought up Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs this year. Obviously, he's been passed on as a head coach. He wants to prove himself that it's not all Andy Reid. He had a part of that offense. He had a part of Patrick Mahomes. How do you do that? You pass the ball. You get Sam Howell to produce. If you can go in Washington and make Sam Howell a quarterback that brings maybe the Commanders to the playoffs or something, he's going to get a head coaching job. And you need Jahan Dotson to do that. So I think he's going to be a big part of this offense. And he's just not being valued as a number 2 wide receiver that's going to be used.
All right. Anyone else have anything to say about Jahan Dotson?
I feel weird. I've agreed with Rossi on 2 topics today. This is weird, man. Darren Waller, he hit it out of the park, and then I love this one because I actually think the Redskins are going to have an extremely underrated offense and are going to do something.
Yeah, you called them the Redskins.
Man, I think Washington is going to have a very surprising offense with everything you just said. Bieniemy, Sam Howell, I think is an improvement, and I like Dotson, Scary Terry, and Curtis Samuel in their slot. I think it's a dangerous. It could be a dangerous offense.
Could be a sleeper team. Hope so.
Logan Thomas too. Don't forget about him if he can stay healthy. He just can't stay on.
Yeah, that's the biggest if. I don't think Logan Thomas has ever had a healthy year.
No, he's talented too. He hasn't. I don't think. All right, Joe. Breakout.
Calvin Ridley, man, the guy. I can't wait to see him get back on the field. We haven't seen him since obviously he missed all last season. That year he had in Atlanta, Before that, it was 90 catches, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns his last full season. I mean, give me that. Give me all that. Give me the hard work and determination he has to prove himself again and what he's been doing in the offseason, how he's looked at training camp. Zay Flowers is known for being a fast guy. They showed him and Zay running routes, and he was 10 times faster than Zay Flowers on his route running. Give me what he can do. Zay Flowers had 800 yards, 5 touchdowns last season on 121 targets. Excuse me, I said Zay Flowers, didn't I? I did. Yeah, I did. I meant to say Zay Jones. Zay Jones is not a good route runner, and Zay Jones does not have good hands. So if that's what he can produce in this offense, and now you're going to put Ridley across from Christian Kirk, Christian Kirk's going to blow the roof off those secondaries, and that's going to open up Ridley on those post routes, so he's not going to care going over the middle. I think the sky could be the limit for him, and I think he could be a big number 1 in fantasy this year.
Those videos of Zay Jones running a route, and then Calvin Ridley runs the same exact route after him, and he looks like he's on fast forward.
It's insane.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I haven't checked him out yet. I heard about him. I gotta look at that. All right, Andy, who do you have for breakout?
All right, so I went a little bit. I went with I forgot who I went with. Oh, I went with Justin Ross. That's what I went with. And I'm not saying. Well, I was gonna say James Cook. And I was like, that's not right.
James Cook on the mind.
That's just always all the time. I don't think he's gonna be breakout in the sense of like, he's not gonna catapult into like, stardom. But I think he's gonna go from a dude you can draft in the very late rounds to a serviceable spot start kind of guy for your roster. He's got all the physical traits. He had some health issues coming out of college. Goes undrafted. Looks like he's cleared those up. He's on. I mean, somebody has to get receptions. That's not Travis Kelce on the Chiefs. So, I'm buying into the training camp hype a little bit, but he was amazing in college, and I think he very well could be, somebody you take in round 13, round 14, and he stays on your roster for a year, and maybe you get 6-7 starts out of him. That's a breakout year to me.
Okay. Do you think are you taking him over the other wide receivers on that team? Like if say Sky Moore and MVS and Tony's hurt right now, but say they're all available, is Justin Ross do you think he's going to lead the team?
No. So I think it's obviously Kelce 1. I think it's Kadarius 2. And then after that, they do with receivers like they do with their running backs, right? They're kind of a hot hand coach, right? Reed's going to put in whoever's producing. And I think Justin Ross is that guy. I mean, if he's starting with the ones now, I don't think he ever loses a grip on it. If he gets it, if he gets his shot behind Sky Moore in like week 4 or 5, I think he grabs it and he runs with it. But right now he's running with the ones. I know every report out of training camp in Kansas City is that everybody looks good, but I just, watching Justin Ross play in college I'm a believer. So
someone's got to get that. Someone's got to be the number 1 receiver there.
Yeah, and if you're taking Justin Ross, you're taking him with the last pick of the draft, so it doesn't matter. And if he ends up winning that role or being somebody, that's a breakout if I've ever heard of one. So it's worth the chance, at least in basketball too. He has 3-4 good games. He's gonna win you some games.
Yeah, you never know in that offense. All right, so for my breakout, hopefully Andy doesn't shit on me on this one too. I went Alexander Madison.
Yeah, I like it. I love it.
You like Alexander Madison? All right, so we did an Instagram post with that. Like a week ago or so?
Yeah,
I already made my case of him. But to reiterate, he's still just 25 years old. He's got the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL in Jefferson. He's going to take some attention away on defense. 2 years ago, as a backup, he started just 4 games. He had 32 receptions with 491 yards rushing. My wife and son just walked in, so bear with me here.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, Lucas.
They're walking in. Offensive line is ranked top 10 by Sharp Football Analysis. You want to say hi? Say hi.
What's up, Lucas?
All right. What's up? You can hear. You can't hear? You got to have my headphones on to hear. All right. So there's no real competition for touches. Ty Chandler is the immediate backup. He was a 5th-round draft pick, had 6 touches last season. Like Najee, the efficiency wasn't good, but he's going to get the workload there. You know, I think the coaches were just saying that he's a 3-down back. They look at him that way. They got rid of Dalvin Cook for a reason, money, but also they were confident enough in Alexander Mattison to be that guy. You know, they're not getting any of the veteran running backs in there right now. There's a ton of them out there that they could be looking at. They're not looking at any of them. I think they have confidence in this guy, and I think he's going to have a good year. I said that he could be a number 1 running back, top 12 running back. He could easily have 1,200 yards, 60 receptions, and he could get into that number 1 running back kind of conversation there. The dude catches the ball, so I think he's a value where he's going. Andy, what do you guys say about that?
Dude, I love Madison. I love his role. I actually think he is a good running back, unlike Najee. And I can agree with everything you say, actually.
All right.
Love it, Doug. Love it.
All right.
I don't like how
you're back
coach,
next week.
His coach came out and said that he has potential to be the 3-down back, but he called him Alex Madison. And it sounded so weird. Like, it's Alexander Madison.
Alexander Madison.
It's Alexander Madison. And when he called him Alex Madison, it's just weird, man.
Put some respect on that name.
Mike, is Alex Madison is he off your big board? Is he on your
Alexander Madison, that guy's a badass. Alex Madison, I want nothing to do with him.
I wouldn't have put him in this list.
Exactly.
No. All right. Next topic. Best team for fantasy purposes. Mike, who you got?
All right. So everyone thinks I sat here, I went with the Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't. I went with the San Francisco 49ers. And there's obvious reasons why I went with the Niners. They have CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Elijah Mitchell. They have the talent there, obviously. But that's not the main reason I went with the Niners. One thing I looked at is who are these teams playing and how prolific are the offenses that they're playing against. And I have a list of teams that the Niners are facing. That they're facing, obviously, the Rams twice, obviously the Seahawks twice. Didn't put the Cardinals on this list. Cowboys, Browns, Vikings, Bengals, Jaguars, Ravens. All of these teams have one thing in common. They're supposed to be explosive offenses. And when you have a fantasy matchup of explosive offense versus explosive offense, it makes fantasy greatness. So the reason why I didn't go with the Eagles or the Chiefs is because if you look at what the Eagles did last year in 2022, he's warming his hands up already. They produced every single week in the first half, but they were up like 28-0, and then did nothing in the second half. They just rode that clock out. Wasn't great for fantasy, but it got them the win, so you can't blame them for it. The 49ers aren't going to have the opportunity to do that. They're playing too good of teams. They have too tough of a schedule. They're going to have to air it out. They're going to have to score as much as they can every week, and it's going to make for the best team in fantasy.
Okay. My only pushback. Go ahead.
Where do you put the 49ers defense? You're worried about offenses being explosive against them.
Oh, the 49ers defense is great, but explosive offense beats good defense. Like there's no doubt about that this is an offensive league. And if you have the Bengals, the Ravens, the Cowboys, you have these offenses, no matter how good your defense is, they're going to score.
Yeah. Yeah, again, my only pushback with the Niners is I don't think they're going to have that one great player. They're going to have a lot of good players. I guess CMC could be the one great, but they have so many mouths to feed in that offense.
Well, I thought that was
no,
it
is. But again, like, I think outside of CMC, everyone else is going to be pushed down a little bit more than they probably should be because of how much attention he's going to get.
No, I agree with that, but I still think that CMC is always going to get his, and then there's going to be one or two other guys that are going to have great fantasy value each and every week.
And who can you count on is the thing. Like, who can you count on to be consistent?
Well, Debo and Kittle, obviously, and then I think Ayuk is going to have his best fantasy year too. So, if you have two of those three guys with CMC having fantasy value, it's going to push your team into that threshold of best fantasy team.
Okay.
All right, Mike, let me ask you.
Hold on.
What do you think about their quarterback situation? Like,
obviously.
I was gonna go there, Eddie. You beat me to
it. The same quarterback situation that they've had in the past 5 years. You know, like Jimmy G was never great for fantasy, right? But the other players produced around Jimmy G because he was efficient enough to. I mean, Debo gets open. CMC is gonna get open. Ayuk, I think, is gonna get open, and Kittle gets his. So I think no matter who's at quarterback, whether Brock Purdy's ready for week 1, Trey Lance proves he's better than Sam Darnold, whatever it is, they're going to have the weapons to make sure that this team still produces.
So with all these weapons on this team, do you think that we're all undervaluing whoever the starting quarterback is there?
No, I don't think so, because there's going to be, I mean, even Debo and CMC are going to get rushing touchdowns. I mean, Kittle obviously can go out there, get 100 yards. Debo get 100 yards. CMC, they all could get 100 yards, but they're not going to all do it consistently every single week. So it's a crapshoot of who you're going to pick week to week. But it's not all in the passing game. I mean, you know, Kyle Shanahan, he's going to rush the ball, and he's going to bring Debo in the backfield to rush the ball too. So I don't think you're undervaluing the quarterback. I just think that they do the right things to make sure everybody's effective.
All right. Let's stop attacking Mike. Let's go on to the next.
Hey, I handled that pretty well.
Joe, who do you got?
So I'm going to roll it into my MVP, and I'm taking the Chargers. You got Justin Herbert at quarterback. You got your bowling ball and Austin Eckler at running back. Your wide receivers, you got your steady Eddie with Keenan Allen. As long as Keenan stays healthy, we all know what he can do and how sure-handed he is. You got your big play wide receiver, Mike Williams. And then you got the rookie in Quentin Johnson, who I love at a TCU, and I think he's going to add more explosive plays, putting him in the slot with those two guys on the outside. And then Gerald Everett, to me, is underrated. Gerald Everett had 58 catches last year, 500 yards and 4 touchdowns in his first season with this team. And I think he is going to get a lot more opportunity next year. Not only that, but you still have Josh Palmer behind Quentin Johnson. I think this offense is just set up for greatness. I think, like Mike's point, that I want an offense in fantasy that's going to play against other big play offenses, and I think that's what's in the NFC West. I think we have them playing Kansas City twice a year. They're going to have to put up points against that. I think Oakland's got a very good offense. Devontae Adams, I think, with Jimmy G, I think is going to be better than Derek Carr on that team. I'd rather have Jimmy G than Carr. Josh Jacobs is a big explosive running back. And then I think the Denver Broncos offense is going to be more pass heavy with Sean Payton as the coach there. So I think San Diego. Wow, this is bad. I think the Chargers are going to have to put up a lot of offense. And I think they put up a lot of offense last year. And I think the sky's the limit with Herbert and Eckler leading this team.
All right. Can't really argue that point.
No, you can't. You can't. But if you're betting on the Chargers, you're betting on Justin Herbert actually making that leap. I mean, obviously people think it's going to happen, but he didn't have that great of a – anybody have like 25 touchdowns last year or something?
So again, this is Mike going to just last year's stats.
Well, you have to. He's a young quarterback. You have to go from last year's stats.
Right. He's arguing quarterbacks, even though he was just okay with Brock Purdy. So
but he doesn't want Justin Herbert.
It's offensive style differences.
He's not worried about Sam Darnold.
So in 2021,
because Hurts was on the second tier, and Herbert was one, and Hurts was on the second tier.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That was disgusting.
He's a little butthurt about that. In 2021, I know, Mike, it's 2 years ago. It's a lot. It's a long time ago. But 2 years ago, Herbert had 5,014 yards, 38 touchdowns passing. They just added that rookie stud receiver, Keenan Allen healthy, Mike Williams healthy, Eckler healthy. New coach. Yeah, for now. But you know, Kellen Moore, new offensive coordinator. I see a big year out of that.
No, offense. I'm not. To be fair, I love the Chargers this year. I'm not hating on the Chargers, especially with Quentin Johnson. I think they finally have that piece for inevitably when Mike Williams goes down, somebody can fill in for him, and you're not doing the Josh Palmers of the world that Justin Herbert has to throw to.
And they have Josh Palmer as a fourth. You know, he's still there. So
I'm not hitting on the Chargers. I'm just saying he needs to be better than he was last year. That's all I'm saying.
I'll agree with that.
Thanks.
Andy, who do you got?
You guys probably didn't see this coming. I got the Bills.
Whoa!
I know. Incredible, huh? But, I mean, you got a top 3 quarterback in fantasy, no matter who you think is 1, 2, 3, right? Diggs is top 5 or 6. Gabe Davis, I think, finished last year as wide receiver like 27 or something. And that, everybody bought into the training camp hype. He got a high ankle sprain. He played all year with it. Those things suck. He's going to be better this year. So if you have 2 top 25 wide receivers, Dawson Knox lost his brother before the season. He's still finished, I think, top 12 tight ends. So he's a starter. You got Kincaid coming in, who's just roasting training camp left and right. Josh Allen seems to love him. You know how I feel about James Cook. He's going to get every single opportunity to be a legitimate number 1. And if he can't handle it, and it's a timeshare, then you still have Damian Harris, who is fantasy relevant. He's a good back. Doug, I know you think he's a good back. He is. And I mean, if you have 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and a star quarterback, I mean, that is a very fantasy relevant roster. So I think they have the best fantasy team in this category here.
Andy, do you think Kincaid comes in and produces right away? And if he does, is he taking value away from Knox, or is he taking value away from whoever the slot receiver would be?
So essentially, they drafted him as a Cole Beasley replacement, is what I've read. I don't think he's there yet, right? Like, there's a lot, but they draft him to sit in the middle of those zones, find the gaps. So it might take a little while for him to get there, but they tried to run a lot of 2 tight end sets last year with Quentin Morris, and it just didn't work out. And that's when they kind of got away from their offense a little bit. That's Steph keeps referring to, like, the first 9 weeks of the season. That was what they were doing, and they kind of got away from it. I don't think anything hurts Steph's value at all. And I think Gabe is pretty locked into that too. I think his value is still exactly. The only thing it'll mess with is maybe Dawson Knox's overall look, but he's not. He's a red zone guy. Yeah. He's a go up and get it guy. If JA sees him one-on-one, he has no problem putting it up there. He's never going to be, an E reception, like, consistent guy. It was never going to happen. He's there to score touchdowns. He's a big dude. He can block. Kincaid just coming in will eventually, I think, probably get to that 100 reception a year mark, but I don't think probably in the first year or 2. Year or 3, I think is when we get to him being, maybe he replaces, Kelsey, somebody when Kelsey gets old, maybe he's tight end 1 somewhere in the future, but not right now.
And you'd love that. That's high hopes right there.
I'm buying in.
Yeah, it's tough for a rookie tight end year 1, but you're thinking he's going to be slot as well. Then maybe.
Oh,
yeah.
That's their slot guy.
I also think Gabe Davis, we could be sleeping on him a little bit because, like you said, he had the injury. Also, Josh Allen had the injury the second half of the year where he wasn't throwing deep balls as much, right?
Week 6.
Yeah.
Week 6.
So
he played the last 11 weeks.
Yeah, and other than Kincaid, nothing has really changed in that offense, right? I mean, Singletary gone, Cook.
They boosted the offensive line a little bit. They signed some guards. They drafted Osiris out of Florida. Like they're trying to get Jay some protection.
Yeah.
Ken Dorsey had him working on his checkdowns last year. He's got, he's getting that rate up a little bit. So James Cook's value's up a little, but I just think they have talent everywhere. And they're kind of assholes. Like they have no problem beating you 38-3. Like they'll step on your throat. They'll just keep going. Like they're not going to slow it down. They're just going to.
They really are.
So, yeah. So that plays.
They've been stepped on by Tom Brady for so long that they just want they don't give a shit. They're just coming out to get you.
That's what it is. Opposite of the Eagles, who, like you said, Mike, they tore it down in the first half, and then the second half they're like, nah, we're gonna pump the brakes a little bit.
Oh yeah.
All right, I think we're going pretty long here, so I'm gonna make mine short and sweet. I'm going Bengals. I'm gonna stay consistent like Joe did. Jamar Chase was my MVP. That's kind of why I'm going that way. Also, I think Joe Burrow is going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback if healthy. If healthy, it's kind of an if right now. Joe Mixon, I think we're sleeping on him a little bit. Again, like Joe said, I'm agreeing with Joe a lot here. T. Higgins was a wide receiver 17 last season. I'm a little bit lower on him, but if he's in that top 24 range, then you have 2 receivers in that offense that are top 24. That's pretty nice.
Contract here, man.
Contract year. You got Tyler Boyd as that flex option always. I mean, he's Mr. Reliable when it comes to that. No matter how the offense changes, he's always going to just be getting that, 700, 800 yards, 4 to 6 touchdowns. And yeah, that's why I'm going Bengals. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. But anyone have any pushback on the Bengals as the number 1?
No, you really can't push back on the Bengals this year.
As long as that injury isn't a problem.
Of course. Yeah.
That's it. So, all right, boys. I think this was a long episode. I don't know exactly how long, but I think we might have been pushing an hour and a half here. Might have been. I don't know. We'll take a look.
Might be a little much.
But anyways, thank you for all your insight.
That was a fun one.
That was a fun one.
That was good.
I didn't like agreeing with Mike, but other than that, it was good.
Yeah, I want a little more bickering out of you too.
At least Joe's face held up, so we got that going for us.
Yeah. There was a little feeling on a couple of sips, so we cut it down on how many we took.
You still numb?
A little bit.
All right, boys. Thanks. And we'll see you guys next time. Later.
Next week.
Yeah.